And thank you for joining us here on PM Express. And you know, PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It's also brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties, Alobo Bitters, and the Ghana AIDS Commission. And in fact, in the last few months, my colleague Jojo Kopana here at JoyNews, he's been traveling the country, trying to track government's One District, One Dam initiative and the implementation of it. And he came back, One Village, One Dam initiative, and he came back with what he describes as thirsty dams. In other words, what he found on the ground, that the dams that were constructed to actually provide a basin to hold water for farmers in the dry season themselves are thirsty. So tonight, let's explore how to fix this broken promise. There's a lot to look at, and some of the things he found have been fascinating indeed. I'll show you a short clip when we sit for the conversation before you hear my guest very shortly. But let's summarize a few of the key things, because the president himself made this a big deal. It was part of the major pillar in the list of flagship initiatives that the government was introducing. This One Village, One Dam initiative. And that's why the president said at the time when this was launched in 2016 and in the campaigning going into the 2017, after they've won in their manifesto, that they've thought through all these policies very well, and we know it can be done. And that included the One Village, One Dam initiative. Now, fast track what we've seen. What is it really? I'm pretty sure you know by now. They were going to construct a number of things according to the ministry responsible for it, the Special Initiative Ministry. They wanted to complete by November 507 dams in the villages, right? And also, on the average, they wanted to spend 250,000 cedis on each dam. If you were doing the computation, you're talking about an estimated cost for all the 507 dams coming to 126.8 million cedis. So that was a grand plan, and this was the budgeting that was done for it. And then you move to what we know to be the areas that this will cover. We know that these were some of the regions, in fact, the regions where the policy was going to be focusing on, mainly in the northern part of the country, the northern region, the Savannah region, in the upper west region, in the upper east region as well, and the northeast region. The government had determined, have done their feasibility studies and realized that these are the areas where they have frequent challenges with dry weather and become very difficult for the farmers to cultivate all year round, because when it gets to the dry season, the reservoirs simply dry up and the farmers are unable to get water, and then livelihoods become affected. So it was targeted in these regions to build one dam in each village, 507 of them indeed. Now, about 40% of the dams, according to the Development Impact West Africa, this is a non-governmental organization. They had gone around to do an assessment of the dams and produced a report. And in that report, they tell us that 40% of the 507 dams that the government had planned to build, they were not properly constructed. That's what they found before we went onto the ground ourselves, right? So they found that. And this is tracking the implementation of this particular policy over the period. And then they also stressed that some of the dams are just not in suitable locations, because it has to be in a place where the farmers can access and use that to irrigate their farms. And they found that the challenge was the way they situated some of these dams in areas that was simply unsuitable. Another thing they found is about 90% of the dams do not have the proper connections required for the farmers to tap in outlets and valves. So that, again, was something that they had flagged in the assessment of the implementation. There's one thing to have a very great policy on paper, and by the way, the One Village, One Dam is a great idea, because we know that in the 21st century, in 2023, you should have irrigation so people who don't rely on the rain to farm. And so that was a carefully thought about, and the president was very clear that we've thought about this and we can implement this and can be done. It's not rocket science to do irrigation and to build dams. It's been implemented prehistoric times, farmers have been doing irrigation, right? So they make that point here that this is what they found, the contrast between the policy intention and the actual implementation. So, as we now know, according to the Northern Patriots in Research and Advocacy, also looking into this, a few things. Number of projects that they tracked, they also did a tracking of the projects. And they found 285 of them that they were able to track out of the 507 that the ministry was looking into. And then the cost of the dam that they tracked, according to the Northern Patrons in Research and Advocacy, came down to 201.1 million, an estimate there, right? And so if you narrow it down, their average cost per dam came to 670,350. So this is according to another non-governmental organization looking into this. And their cost is more than twice what the ministry had estimated the dams to cost. One for the ministry was costing an average of $250,000. But this non-governmental organization's tracking found that it was actually costing far more than that. It was costing more than twice what had been budgeted and estimated by the ministry, right? That's a key thing to observe. So they made some recommendations that the 1V, 1D policy, they want it reviewed, right? We want value for money. It's a key thing to look at in ensuring that the taxpayers' funds are used properly. They also look at the groundwater. They want the government to explore that option to complement these dams in the villages because it could also provide an alternative source of water for irrigation. And then also, they also want the matters investigated in terms of the procurement processes that the ministry had adopted. And when we sit down for a conversation with the people affected by this and some of the officials involved, we'll get to see how we can fix this broken promise for the people. We would also hear from the people. We'll watch an excerpt of Jojo's documentary. We played the part 1 last week and the part 2 this week. We'll hear from the people themselves, what they've been telling us when we went on the ground. They had their own solutions and proposals to make on how to fix this. Stay with me as we look into a matter that affects thousands of people in the northern part of the country, as I illustrated for you the target areas and regions where. After this break, we sit for a conversation. But before we do that, we'll watch the excerpt from the northern parts of the country and explain why the dams are themselves thirsty. And that up next, right here on PM Express. We'll watch a bit more of that. This is just to tease you ahead of the conversation because it's one of those key things that affect lives. And that's why the government thought that it was a great idea to start the process of building these dams in villages across the northern part of the country. So we'll look at what the story has been many years after this whole concept was hatched and implemented. So stay with me. But PM Express is always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We deliver spaces as though we're going to occupy them ourselves. Syntex Tanks is strong and is tough. Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment. Ghana AIDS Commission as well. And you would know by now, if you watch us regularly, that there's only one tank in Ghana that you would need to buy. It's worth every penny you intend to spend on storing water. It is Syntex Tanks, because no matter your water needs, they will make sure that that need is satisfied. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tank. We have agents across the country. Call them on 0244-335-168 or shop online at Syntex Tank at syntexgh.com. A strong, a tap, and I must argue they will do a very good job storing water for farmers in the northern part of the country. If you put the tanks there, they're resilient. The weather will not be a problem at all. But what about homes, by the way? Desires are wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness. But passion, trust me, that is a real deal. It is everything. Thinking about buying a new home? Well, talk to those who build with passion. Sloan Square is a new gated community development at Sakumono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced before. Why don't you call them on 0553 662 366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. Joining me in the studio right now is Bismarck Ayurugo. He is the Executive Director of the Northern Patriots in Research and Advocacy, NOPRA, and he is on Zoom with us from North, and I'm grateful that he could join me. Dr. Charles Nyaba is in the studio with me. He is Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, and seated right next to him is Jojo Kobana. He's a features editor, and he traveled the country looking for the dams and talking to people and seeing for himself what has happened to this great initiative government has been implementing over the years. Before we get into the conversation, as I teased you earlier, this is part of what Jojo found.
Water to the northerner is like blood. When we have water, we can do a lot of things for ourselves.
And without it, unemployment, poverty, and famine. To escape, many young people travel down south for supposed greener pastures. The NPP government provided a solution: one village, one dam.
The then candidate and then the running mates visited a chief in one of these villages and met the women digging the ground with their bare hands for water. So when they saw that, they said, well, when we come to power, we will provide you with water that can be better than what you are using your bare hands to construct. And that is how come the promise of one village, one dam.
I'm saying every village, one dam. One village, one dam. You know?
The policy appealed to the people in the northern regions.
The government came here and told us that they will be giving us dam. And our people assured them that if they give them dam, they also let them laugh. And really, you can ask our assemblyman and even ask the MPP people what this community did for them. They voted massively for them.
It was a political promise that won the hearts and minds of the people. The dams should make it possible for farmers to farm all year round and break the cycle of waiting for the rains before cultivation. It was the reason why the people of Bongo sang and danced till they became drenched in sweat. When the president cut salt for the implementation of the project.
We have begun the One Village, One Dam initiative, and you here in Bongo can see for yourself that we have begun the initiative. It is our intention that Bongo alone will get 10 dams this year. 570 are being built. You heard the minister across the 3 northern regions, and Bongo constituency alone is going to get 10 out of that 570.
This campaign promise has been fulfilled. Well, but not quite.
Dam always take us 2 months to dry up.
Only 2 months?
Only 2 months. October, November, the water dry up. November, like this, you see our pepper farm, you will like it. But where? No water again.
My name is Jojo Kobana. It has been 5 years since the dams were constructed. My job here is simple. Find out how the dams are serving the people as it should and what concerns the people have. I hope government will use the findings in this documentary to improve the current state of the dams. Now, let's backtrack to Katsina Nankana West District in the Upper East region in the town of Kajalo in 2019. Months after the Kajalo Dam was constructed, the embankment of the dam broke. It could not hold water.
Before we realized, within 30 minutes, there was a disaster. The bank of the river was washed away by this heavy rain, which as a result was a shoddy work, as identified by committee members from day one.
So let's discuss it now. All isn't well, obviously, with the one village, one dam policy. Let's start off. You've done 2 episodes. Have we managed to get any official reaction?
No, not yet. I met the Special Development Initiative. We all actually sent right information request. We wanted to know the cost of the dam, wanted to know how many dams have been completed, and wanted to know how much money was spent on each of the dams, because I mean the figures we're getting was more than the official figures that government put out. But we have not received the information yet. Last Friday, I was at the office of the coordinator of the Special Development Initiative, came with other officials, and then we met some officials from the NDA also met, and then they promised, that is the Northern Development Authority, that they were going to give me the information. That was Friday. They were going to send it to me. They have not. Monday, they did not. Today, I have checked. They said they will get back to me. So we are still waiting for the information on all these. The reason why this is very important is because when I went, I didn't even see the essence of this dam until I went there, especially in the dry season where the people are not doing anything. You know, when you get to the northern region, especially during the dry season, the whole place is hot. I mean, people need something to do. People don't have anything to do. And that is the main reason why you see many people join buses and then come to Agbogboshi, come to Kumasi, come to many other areas. Okay, they have nothing to do. And then when it starts raining, then they get back onto the bus and then they go back to plant. So that was when I realized the essence of this particular promise. And I was just imagine if the government had implemented this project very well, the people would really benefit. It would not even help just the people. It would drive down the prices of food, because I mean now the prices are up. And one very shocking thing, one lady lent, because of what the policy gave her information. She saved money, and then she drilled her own borehole, and in that very short time, she got like 10,000 cedis, like 2 months when she harvested. And she's been farming all year round because she has a mechanized borehole. And she was excited. And she was saying that if the project really worked, if the dams really worked, they would make a lot of money and they would never want to.
Where did you go? How many dams did you see?
I was in the Upper East region. I was in Upper West, the Nyole Dam. I was in the Northeast region, Nabale. I visited Kajalo, I visited about 10 dams in all. And I intentionally chose them evenly distributed across the 5 regions. And the thing was that it was becoming monotonous, because when you travel to, when I was in Upper East region, I went to Bongo first, saw the Ayopia Dam, and then went to Katsina Nankana, and then I was shown another dam. It's the same. It's virtually the same. And virtually the same, because the place is dry and the people are complaining. It took me a very long time to actually identify a dam that was actually working. And I found
Which one was that?
Which was a Nyole Dam in the Upper West region. And with that, the ladies, lady farmers put money together, and then they decided to get their own pumps to pump water into their gardens, and they were making money and they were excited. And that was one of the dams that had water all year round. But all the other places, the water dried up, and it was virtually like a football field. You could actually just walk into it. And that is supposed to be a dam that's supposed to retain water for the farmers to actually depend on and also make money.
Okay, so that's a very good example of the difference this could make. That one case you found that was actually working. So let me bring in Bismarck Ayorigo. He's Executive Director of the Northern Patriots, and he is actually in that part of the country. So Bismarck, tell me, it could work, as in the positive case that Jojo discovered, and this was in the Upper West region, you say. What have you found to be the reason why that success story isn't replicated in many more places?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss or have conversation this evening on this very important subject matter that borders on livelihoods of the people of Ghana, particularly those of us from northern Ghana. I must say that with the announcement of one village, one dam policy, the good people of Ghana, particularly those of us from northern Ghana, were so excited. You could see beams of smiles on the faces of the people of northern Ghana when this policy of one village, one dam was announced. You know why? The one village, one dam is part of a bigger flagship program of the government called Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication, IPEP. And IPEP seeks to eradicate poverty, not to even reduce it. So build infrastructure that will eradicate poverty. And if you look at the situation in northern Ghana, whether we are looking at multidimensional poverty, we are looking at monetary poverty, we are looking at food insecurity, northern Ghana is home to poverty, deprivation, and underdevelopment.
But Bismarck, I think as for that, there's no contest at all on what you're saying. But I'm curious to know that question I asked. I want to circle back because you worked there. You've seen this. You've done the work and the research yourself. What did you find to be the reason why the dam that was successful is working and help? Why hasn't that been replicated in many more places? Well, what was the reason? What did you find?
The reason is they spent the equipment that was moved to the site for the construction. Community members described them as equipment that could be used to dig fish ponds. So the equipment that is usually used for the construction of dams, irrigable dams, we did not see those equipment. Secondly, most community members testified that they used less than 1 week to construct a dam. And when we spoke with Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, they said it is unheard of, unthinkable to use even 2 months to construct a dam. So they did not do feasibility study, they did not seek technical advice, professional advice from Ghana Irrigation Development Authority. They just moved to site. They failed to consult community members on areas that contain water or areas that has the potential to contain water when the dams are constructed. All advice were ignored by the contractors, by the consultants, and they did whatever they wanted to do. And this is the results we are all getting.
Okay, I see. Stay with me. Mr. Yaba, so you are the president of the peasant farmers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people who do this farming, they rely on it for subsistence first, and then if you can sell the rest, they can make livelihood. What do they tell you? What you've been around yourself, you've seen the dams.
Yeah.
Do you agree that what he's just described is partly the reason why the dams have failed in a lot of places, whereas others work perfectly. So I'm wondering, why don't you replicate the working dams in every place?
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning to my brother Bismarck. I think what Bismarck said and then what you also found on the field is not different from what we found.
Okay.
By then, with the one village, one dam, we have seen 3 categories of dams.
Okay.
There are those that they started afresh, identify a new site, and start digging the dams from there. There were other dams, existing dams, that they went and desilted and added them to the one village, one dam. And there's a special dams, about 6 of them. I think I can still identify one in Upper East that was constructed by Jida.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Vunania Dam.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure the dam you are talking about, whether it's part of those dams, which were properly constructed. They met all the standards of dams that we are looking for. So those dams are working very well. Now, the other category of dams that were classified under the one village, one dams were the old existing dams, which were desilted, and then they went to actually bring them back.
Yeah.
Those dams, you go there and they are working perfectly. There's one around Boko. There's another one in Kasana and Canadian Basinia Dam. Those dams, you go there, you see women growing onions, tomatoes, pepper, garden eggs, and many other commodities. Those are working very well. So it tells you that the kind of contractors that the Ministry of Special Development Initiative engaged to do the dam construction are our number 1 enemies. Mm. As he said, I went to Saka Dam, and the people were telling us that when the contractor moved to site, they all came, the young people stopped their work. They went there involuntarily, helping the contractor to work for free. So within 1 week, when the contractor was moving out of sight, they thought he was going to come, only for them to be called that the contractor had finished working. That dam opened after the first rain. There were 3 dams that opened after the first, second rain. The Kajolo Dam you talked about, second rain came and then it went. There's another dam, Kolungu Dam in Bongo.
But the rain washed away the dam?
Yes, the embankment was off and then the water ran out.
I see.
Okay, so we actually trace up. My expectation was the same as the farmers' expectation. Actually, we were monitoring the political parties' manifestos in 2016. So when the MPP came out with the one village, one dam concept, because irrigation has been one of the key things that we have been promoting that government should take up as investment area.
And the minister, the clip that we played, actually diagnosed a problem succinctly. That and the inspiration behind it, I think, was so laudable that somebody had seen a woman digging a dam with their bare hands and said, we can do this better.
Yeah.
If they were desperate to do this, just supply them with the dam and you fix a problem, but you also win their hearts and minds. And that is what, so the inspiration was noble.
Yeah.
It's been the implementation.
Yeah, and we all bought into it. And if you look at the dam specification that they gave to the consultant, I don't know what happened. It just made the standard dam construction.
You've seen it?
Oh, I've seen. I have some of the specifications here in terms of the embankment, how it should look like. They should be put rock boulders, grow grass to prevent erosion. I can just read a few of the specifications. They say each dam was to cover 2 hectares of land. The earth embankment wall was to have a minimum height of 5 meters. The depth of the dam wall was to be 5 meters. The length of the embankment should be between 250 to 350 meters. And then each of the embankments should be covered with rock boulders and then grasses to prevent erosion. But when we went to most of the dams, you see that the reservoir was so shallow, there was no places that they've done the layer to layer compaction. Because in dam construction, you put a layer, you compact it, you put another layer, you compact it, you continue like that until you get your 5 meters. But in most of the cases, the contractors just excavated the soil and then heap it and left
But that's fascinating because the ministry or the government had specifications.
Yes.
They gave the specifications to the contractors. Some contractors follow the specifications. Others fail to follow them. And then it begs the question. So what did the ministry and the government do about those contractors who failed to follow the clear specifications you just listed?
To be very frank with you, in 2020, when we engaged the ministries, according to them, they were also equally disappointed with some of the contractors and that they were bringing them back, that some of the contractors were not fully paid. So they are going to make sure that they go back and do the reconstruction of those dams that we can salvage before they pay them. But since then, nothing has happened.
I mean, Jojo, what do you say about this? Because I find that fascinating. Do we have any of the contractors at least to give us a sense of whether they've been paid or not?
Well, some of them have been paid. Some of them have been paid in full. Some of them have received part of the money. And what is interesting, I mean, if you look at the Bismarck Ayorgo's report, you would see that some of them have received even more than the monies that they received. And the information that I picked from, I mean, my own sources, I mean, they were saying, well, the reason why some of the payments were higher than was because they forced those people to go back to
So they varied or repair
the dam. And then I said, oh, so if a person goes to repair the dam, why do you have to pay the person more? Then I learned that going back to repair is virtually the same as reconstruction. And so it was the same cost. That's the reason why some contractors received twice or thrice what do you call it? The real allocation was supposed to be.
So it leads to the question that, and now I want to bring in Bismarck in because Bismarck did the work. Is it that the 250,000 average that the ministry had anticipated to pay for it was just inadequate to do the job and to meet the specifications? And the reality then was, once the contractors went to the ground, having received them, and they found that you cannot spend 250,000 and get all the specifications checked for a very effective dam. And so they simply did what they could with the monies they have. Is that what it is?
It's difficult to answer that because I know to be called a consultant means to have all the expertise that are required to be able to do a very good job so that they'll be valued for money. And in our tracking, we saw that the contractor and the consultant was paid over 10 million Ghana cedis to be able to ensure that we construct dams that hold water for us to achieve the policy objectives of increasing agricultural productivity, increasing or improving food security, etc., etc. So if we hired a consultant who was not Bismarck Ayorgo, because he doesn't have the expertise, and we got somebody that had the expertise, and we paid him such an amount for consultancy, he certainly knew that that was the amount. Otherwise, we should all, as Ghanaians, be calling him to account for willfully causing financial loss to the state, because you have been paid for your expertise. So why will you claim to have the expertise? You've taken the Ghanaian taxpayers' money and you have supervised or superintendent over the construction of dams that do not have water. So in our investigation on tracking, we even realized that in some cases, that is the average we are saying, 670,000. But in some cases, some dams cost over 700,000 Ghana cedis, which is more than twice the amount. And this is very serious.
Is it possible that those are the dams that are actually working?
They are not working. We chose dams that have 100% completion status. So we went to Pandai. There is a community called Chokoro and Najori. By the records, those dams are 100% complete. We went to Wild West. There is a community called Iyagle, and there is
Okay, we'll get that rectified. Obviously, there is he's very active at home, and so when you're home, and that's the thing about Zoom and technology. When your kid opens the door, you would have to find a way to shush them away so you can do. We'll try and get at least him in the room, because he was saying something very important about the work that he did. But Big Smack, that is a very fascinating point he's making there. That he found instances where the people were paid twice as much as was actually budgeted, and still the dams were not functioning as they should. Yes, Bismarck.
Yeah, so you see, there are several factors we need to put into consideration when we talk of the one village, one dam. There were some dams that were situated in a place no matter how. Those dams can never contain water. And that's why we talk of poor consultation. Because you don't just go to a place where there are no waterways and you put up a dam. There were instances where dams were put in between houses. And in those places, there were not even farmlands for the farmers to use those dams. There are instances, I think we went to one of the places in Bongo, where already they said 2 children got drowned in the dams. And then their animals on daily basis get drowned in the dams. Because the dams were constructed in a way that the depth between the embankment and the dam was so stiff. That is not the case in dam construction. Okay, so what Bismarck is talking about is not about putting good embankment. If a dam is situated in a place that is not a waterway, when it rains, it means you are receiving only the direct precipitation. And that will not be enough to contain the dams after the rainy season. And I suspect those are the dams that he's talking about.
Yes, and you know, for example, Carry Dam is in Talensi. What's very interesting was when the contractor went there, according to the people. You know, Talensi is also is mountainous, rocky, and behind it is where it receives a lot of rain. And then there was it's an outlet of it where water which will feed the dam. So they chose it. And the Tindana, that is the spiritual leader of the community, performed rituals and said, okay, use this site because this is where all our water, even when the dry season, we can still get water from here. So use this particular site because water comes from the rock and then it gathers here. Then they did it upstream rather, far away from where the people chose.
Why?
Yeah.
So the assemblyman for Carry, he said they spoke to them, but the people said, well, they knew what they wanted to do, so they would do it. And they did that. And because of that, that dam dries every time. I mean, after December, the dam dries. So what the people are now suggesting is they want the contractor to dredge, to create a feeding channel from that particular pool area under the rock directly into the dam so that it will receive water. If they had listened to the people and done it that way, the people would have been excited because, in fact, we went to that particular place and it had a lot of water.
Yeah, I mean, so the key question now to ask is, so what do we do about the dams that aren't just working, the failed dams? What do we do with it? Because we spend money already on these dams. Should we just cut our losses and say we can't do this anymore and so that people should just fend for themselves somehow? Or we should invest some more money and get proper people to do it? That's one we'll talk about when we return. But also the big question is, with the challenges that the dams are having, what has been the impact? And what is the impact? And because I have Dr. Nyaba here, I'll ask him that thought because his members are currently at the receiving end of the inability of these dams to actually provide and hold water all year round. What has been the bigger impact on the livelihoods and economies of these particular areas and this country at large? And most importantly, the bigger picture, what should government do with the challenges that we are having? Remember that PMSS is always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. It's also brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters, experience greatness in every moment. And Ghana AIDS Commission. Now, you know by now that desires our wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. Thinking about buying a new home, talk to those who build with passion. They have Sloan Square. Is a new gated community development at Sakumono, developed by the Cherry Tree Properties. It is a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury community that, trust me, once you experience it, you would want to just live there for the rest of your life. You want to call them on 0553-662-366, 0553-662-366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. And then there is Syntex tanks also. And talking about dams, etc. I mean, you need this in one big Syntex tank there, and then find some way of digging a mechanized bowl, pump the water into it, and I'm pretty sure to serve a great purpose for the farmers who need that. And no matter the water needs, they will supply, and they will make sure the water is stored in a place where you can access all year round. They are first to introduce the double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want because you just want to make it as rugged as possible. Syntex tank is the first to introduce also the white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and we now introduce you to the customer specs order as well, that you can now order. Is bespoke, whatever you want, color, size, they'll do it for you to suit your needs. Syntex tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex tanks. You can call them. They are nationwide. They are in the places we're talking about right now with the dam challenges. 0244-335-168, 0244-335-168, or shop online at syntexgh.com. Are you strong? Are you tough? My guest with me as we explore solutions, but also what should happen with these dams that aren't simply working for the people who need it the most. And thank you very much for staying with us here on PMX. My guests are still with me. Jojo Kobana traveled the country and brought us the insights into why the dams that were built by this government under the One Village, One Dam project aren't working. Many of them, there's some working indeed, but some aren't working. And that's the story we've been probing in the last 2 weeks with the crowning of this particular conversation. Also with me is Charles Nyaba, who is the president of the Peasant Farmers Association. Besma Kayorogo, we lost him on the line there. Hopefully he can join us. Let's explore solutions, gentlemen. Charles, let me start with you first. So what should happen now? Should we just give up?
No, I don't think so. You see, dams are so important that it will be disaster for us to think of even giving up. Because if you take crop yields for plants under irrigation and rainfall, irrigation is 2.3 times higher. Whatever crop you grow under irrigation, your yield is 2.3 times higher than that of the rainfall. Now, you realize that as we speak, when you come to Accra and many of the urban areas, there's no tomatoes. You buy a fruit of tomato for 5 cedis or 10 cedis. Garden X is missing. Part of the problem is the failure of our irrigation system.
So what should we do? We have to have a couple of minutes.
What I think we need to do, one, is to go and look at those dams that we can salvage.
Okay.
And then try to repair the broken banks, and then also expand the reservoir, and then properly place the spillways, and also create canals in those areas. Those areas that we think that we can actually do a big dam. Because one of the proposals the districts were making was that they don't really need dams in every village. It's not every village that you can create dam there. Can we put the monies together and just get a proper place and ensure that within that district, we create one very good big dam, and then they will all go there. That's another area. The other one is to also exploit the irrigation, the solar system of irrigation, where we rather drill boreholes, and I think most of the farmers are doing it at a central point, and then you connect canals and pipes for the surrounding farmers to use.
Okay. I mean, Besma Kayorogo, I just have a few seconds to wrap up. Can you bullet for me what the solution should be, considering we've already spent money on these dams?
Thank you very much. The solution is simple. Before One Village, One Dam, there existed small earth dams in northern Ghana. The people with the expertise that constructed those dams are still there. Let us stop I know it all and get back to these experts. Get to the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority. They have the technical competence to lead the process to ensure that we construct dams that will contain water for us to do dry season farming. Look, it is sad that northern Ghana, blessed with over 8 million hectares of agricultural land, only 1% of it is put under cultivation in the dry season.
That's
important.
Yeah, that's a tragedy indeed. And just to wrap up, and he made a very important point. The experts are there. Consult them and get them involved in the construction. I believe this was done, wasn't it? Didn't they do that?
No.
But the specifications that they put out, where did they come from?
Ghana Irrigation Development Authority should have actually supervised these dams. Okay. When they started, it was the consultants. Yeah. They were ignored. So when things were not working, they brought them in late to go there and do the supervision. Okay. By then, the damage has already been caused.
Okay, Jojo, very quickly.
And we need, the thing is that the money has been spent already. We had specifications. Yeah. If you, for example, tell someone to do a particular job for you, to repair a car for you, and the person has not done it, the way, what do? You hold the person, you make sure that the person you bring the person there.
Depends on the contract you signed with him.
You know, the thing is that
if the contract didn't state specifically that if you fail to execute this according to specifications, you repair and fix at your own cost, then the person is gone.
So why would the state give a contract and not include something that?
Yeah, I think it was Bismarck who suggested that people should be pursued for causing financial loss.
Yes, we need to do that.
Okay, look, this is a conversation that we need to look a bit more into as we approach the elections. It's an opportunity to revisit what has been done, what hasn't been done, and what the promises are, and to measure it against what actually is possible. You want to join us for that conversation, but it's a big conversation that we've been having here. So why is it that we pump so much money into developing the northern regions of this country, and yet the improvement in the lives of people, there is a complete mismatch between how much not only government, but the non-governmental organizations and the private sector just fly to Tamale or to Why. You see the number of foreigners, development officers and agents traveling there in their numbers just to pump money into attempting to fix the problem of poverty. And yet we don't see the connection and the relationship between that and the people's lives. And that's a conversation we need to have and dig into that a bit more. Enjoy the rest of your evening.